Κυρίες και κύριοι, στην τρίτη ημέρα του συνεδρίου.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third day of our conference, The Future of the Agri-food Sector. My name is Andreas Papadopoulos. On behalf of Agriculture Integration, let me welcome you to the third day. Following four very interesting sessions and approximately 30 speakers from throughout the world, Greece, Europe, and the US, we are starting now the third day with a very important session going to deal with adaptation, mitigation actions, promotion of technological achievements and good practices. Let us start with a panel discussion. Let me welcome Mr. Papadakis, who is president of the scientific committee of this conference, to start with this discussion. Mr. Papadakis, you have the floor, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third day of our conference. Today we have two panels, and the first panel is devoted to the adaptation and mitigation actions, promotion of technological achievements and good practices. We have a glorious panel today. We have very important and well-known experts from all over the world to discuss about the objectives of our panel. So let me introduce the speakers today. Mrs. Alain Moschner, she's Scientific Director and of the FABL Pathways Consortium, United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. We have with us also Nick Kanopoulos, is the President and CEO of the Bright Solar Company. We have Dr. Dionysia Angeliki Lyra. She's a halophyte agronomist at the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. Dr. Panagiotis Balabanis, at the European Commission, Deputy Head of the Unit DG Research and Innovation. Professor Vasilis Fenakis, Founder and Director of the Center for Life Cycle Analysis at Columbia University, New York, United States. My colleague at the Agricultural University of Athens, Professor Spiros Foundas, a well-known expert in the field of precision agriculture. So, first of all, I would like to ask about the actions and policies of the European Union with regard to the reduction of the emissions, particularly from agriculture. And my question, of course, is addressed to Dr. Balabanis as the expert from the European Commission to inform us about the policy and all the regulations and measures that the European Commission has introduced, proposed to the countries of the European Union with regard to the reduction of the emissions in agriculture. And perhaps since he knows very well about the research going on nowadays at the European Union with regard to these matters, to give us some good examples from the current research taking place in the European Union. So please, Panagiotis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George. Good afternoon to all of you. A great also pleasure to be with you today, and also a big thanks to organizers for this kind of invitation. I would be happy, to present, very briefly, some key elements, of the policies at the Commission level. I think many of you had also the opportunity to hear in the first day of the conference also Dr. Haniotis from the Directorate General of Agriculture and Rural Development also who also mentioned several things. What I would like to say first of all is that of course the agriculture has been also included in the overall climate related actions of the commissions and policies which have been also involved in the different also years. But I think one key element that I have to stress first of all is that of course the within the common agricultural policy, this was the main also instrument and funding instruments which also help to address many in particular also mitigation actions in the agriculture related also to the climate changes. And then within the common agricultural policy there were, for instance, mainly also the within also the what we call the cross compliance mechanism. There also there were some environmental also requirements, and then related actions also were also supported there. Then in a recent year in particular also from 2015 onwards, the common agricultural also policy introduced also a new policy instruments, the green direct payment, and this also is an important also instrument which presents a lot of more funding, more than 30% of the direct funding. And this is also it helps also the farmers also to introduce also practices which are related to that. And last but not least, also within also the rural development component of the common agricultural practices. So there are also related actions to the climate change, restoring and preserving also the ecosystems which are dependent on agriculture and forestry, and also promoting also resource efficiency in agriculture, food and forestry. These have been also major activities. But what is important to mention is that as you know, within also the European Green Deal, which is the new policy also to address also the green transition, there have been also some new policies which are very relevant also to the agriculture and to the climate. We have the new climate adaptation policy, which includes also a lot of measures also related to the adaptation also in the agricultural sector. We had also the farm to fork. So this is also an important also strategy that tries also to accelerate, let's say, the transition to the sustainable food system, which should also have more neutral or positive environmental impacts, trying also to mitigate also the climate change, reverse the loss of biodiversity, and ensure food security, but also trying also to preserve the affordability of the food, which is also very, very important element. Also within this farm to farm strategy, what is also important is that the Commission also proposes to also to strengthen more, the carbon farming, which can also provide some financial also incentives also to which would be also very relevant also to mitigate also the climate change. But in addition to those policies, I would like also, as you said, also to stress about the research and innovation policies. I think research and innovation policies are also an important also component of the contribution also to the mitigation actions. And as you probably you are aware, within Horizon Europe, which is one of the biggest framework programs in the world with more than 95 billion euros spent, for the next 7 years, 2027. There we have a dedicated, action, which is about, the food, is about, the bioeconomy, about agriculture, natural resources and environment. And I would stress to say that this is also for the first time they bring together also the agricultural dimension with an environmental dimension, the resource efficiency. And this, it shows also the way that we would like also to address these elements, which I think this is very important that, agriculture also has also to embed also the environmental also dimension, the climate dimension. These are very, very important elements. Let me now, just as also you mentioned, to also highlight some few examples of actions which have been also supported within the also the research and innovation framework of the Commission. And these actions, for instance, many of them, they can also help also to mitigate the climate change impacts in agriculture. One of them is a project which is trying also to develop, a way also for zero energy, low water consumption irrigation for agriculture. And this project, which is called Maslaweten, is a market uptake of innovative irrigation solution based on low water energy consumption. I think trying also to address also this, the problem with the irrigation, because that within the climate change, the water needs may be very, very, very important. And also in addition to that, there is a competition. We will have also to face also competition between also different sectors. So one of this issue is also how to make this, let's say, large scale development of this type of measures. And so this also project trying also to speed up, this commercialization of smart renewable energy powered irrigation systems within also the agricultural sector, in order also to give also some tools to the farmers, also to achieve sustainable high yield production. And within also this project, what is important is that this system also help to have several electricity and energy saving costs, even between 60 and 80% within also the farmers. There have been also these different studies in different countries also within the Europe. And what is also important is that also the water consumption has been also reduced. And I think this is a very good example how also you can also combine together, the reduction, and then as we know, by reducing also the energy and water consumption, also you reduce also the emission. And another also example would be also very important is in the area of wastewater reuse, because we know now that, in particular also in water scarcity areas, the limitation of, water supplies is a major area, in particular also for agriculture. And there also, we have also to benefit from water reuse, because, water reuse provides really a very also important also opportunities also in the water sector and the agricultural also sector, to try also to also reduce the also the material also used, to try also to recover the nutrients also and the phosphorus. And there, for instance, there are also some specific also technologies, like for instance the anaerobic membrane technologies, which can also have a very significant also reduction of both, the energy, but also the fertilizers. And this also provides, a lot of opportunities. But on the other hand, there are also some, and this is also important areas, issues which have been also addressed within also this research project, some technical also barriers or legal barriers. And, some barriers are also related to this, the fact that very often, in particular in nitrogen-rich areas, we have also, first of all, also to treat also the water, and after also to apply it also to agriculture. And so this creates also some problems, but this project, several projects also tried also to address these issues and also to provide also opportunities also in technical way to farmers also to convince technically how to also to implement these actions. And that before finishing, I would like in particular also stress the what we call the European Innovation Partnership on Agriculture. So this is a way to bring together also researchers, farmers, policymakers, also to look about, the innovation potential of research solutions. And this European partnership provides, a lot of advisory services also to the farmers. So this is also a message I would like to pass to the farmers also to look there, because there are a lot of guidance documents, and this can also help them also to apply these technologies in their fields. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Panagiotis. This is good information about the research and the policy of the European Union with regard to reduction of the emissions, reduction of the inputs to the agriculture. And this is what I want to discuss further with Mrs. Monsker. It is known since some years ago that agriculture contributes to about 25% in anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. So everywhere in the world, including the European Union, there is a lot of discussion about taking measures and apply technologies, practices to reduce these emissions. Mr. Balabanis already mentioned some of the measures that the European Union wants to introduce. In your opinion, what we can do to reduce these emissions from agriculture? And do you think that the policies proposed and already applied in many cases actually would lead to what we want, to the reduction of the emissions to the extent that we really want to have?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. So indeed, as this has been already mentioned, I think that the EU has set big ambition to reduce its emissions, including from agriculture, even though there is no specific target only for reduction emissions in agricultural sector. But already by 2035, I think that the objective would be to have the climate neutrality or the zero net in LULUCF plus agriculture. So that's still quite ambitious in less than 15 years from now. And I think that already, indeed, the policy, the farm to fork policies, especially, and the biodiversity strategy from the European Union already highlights the big mechanisms that would make it possible to significantly reduce emissions from agriculture. And so I think that one thing that struck me, also because I have a modeling background, so quantitative targets are quite important for our work, is that the European Union has set really many quantitative targets, especially related to the reduction of input use and, for instance, fertilizer use and pesticide use. That should indeed contribute significantly to the reduction of emissions from the agricultural sector. But also on the demand side, and I think that this is also one of the first time that we have a strategy at the European Union which tackles both supply and demand. And many studies have shown that the shifts toward healthier diets could make a really large and significant contribution to the reduction of emissions from agriculture. And there, this is also really mentioned several times in the fact to fork policies, the fact that obesity is a big concern, that we have also a lot of disease related to the diet in Europe. And so that really people should change their consumption habits. What is not explicit in these policies is exactly which part of the consumption should be reduced. But in many studies, indeed, like the livestock production, like the livestock products consumption, is the big game changer. So then the question indeed is how this will be enforced or supported, and how the consumers will change that. But I think that already by tackling on one side the emissions from fertilizer use, and especially like nitrogen, reducing that, and on the other side, like the reduction of the emissions from the livestock sector, potentially through dietary shifts, which are and livestock and nitrogen are really like the two main sources of emissions from agriculture in Europe. So if we can do that, then I think the EU would be in a good position to meet the ambitious targets. But I think that on the demand side, I think the targets are not so clear yet, and also like changing habits is difficult from the consumer side. So I think that this would be even like maybe even harder than changing the production side.
So with regard to the production side, do you think that, what's your opinion about the extending further the organic agriculture and probably also applying practices like regenerative agriculture? Do you think that this is possible today, and how quickly can we actually turn agricultural practices towards that direction?
Well, this is a difficult question. Like the target from the farm to fork is to have at least 25% of used agricultural land under organic farming by 2030. So, which is really a huge increase. And at the same time, I think that at least in France, like there have been many protests from the farmers, organic farmers, saying that the new cap will not allow them to continue their activities in good condition. So this is very challenging. But indeed, like of course, if the organic farming would increase in the EU, then there would have this would have significant impacts on the reduction of fertilizer use, inorganic fertilizer use at least. So also here reducing the emissions. And also, like for the regenerative agriculture, I think there, like the soil carbon would be mostly targeted. But I think that this is maybe the most complicated part. Is exactly like to see how to convince farmers then now to apply these practices, because it usually involves different knowledge, also about agronomic practices and so on. And for farmers, maybe for young farmers, who are trained currently, this is part of their courses. But I think for many farmers who are currently working, that would require a big shift in their practices. So yes, I think that it would be valuable and a good move. But the realism of that, I'm sure that the European Union and the Commission is working hard on thinking how to make that operational. But that's really challenging.
I share your opinion. Thank you very much about the information that you provided to our audience. And now I'd like to further discuss about the new technologies, what we can do with the new technologies, how can we apply them and help both the farmers and the economies in the European Union, but also internationally. So I'm going to ask now Mr. Fountas Diaspiros, what do you think about the today available technologies, commercially available, and how they can help in transforming agriculture to become, to use less inputs, produce more, emit less gases, greenhouse gases, and all that. Do you think that this is possible? And also, what is your opinion about the time scale that we can expect of the application of these technologies, and what we can expect with regard to the economic results?
Thank you very much, Professor Papadakis. And I would like also to thank for the organization committee for the invitation and to be part of this very high-level panel and a very hot topic, climate change in agri-food, which is, I think, we all face. So coming back to your question, I think I would say that we are on a good track. So there have been a lot of development and a lot of investment in the area of new technologies in agriculture over the last decade, at least. Precision farming, for example, started already 25 years ago. So now we can see many mature solutions that can be actually used by the farmers, which is it's a very good sign. And we can see also many companies are investing more and more into this direction, both companies related to farm machinery, but also companies with crop protection products, fertilizers, irrigation. So everybody now is looking for the technologies because what we have seen is that with the technology, we can actually optimize the resources. And we can do that because with a monitoring system, we can actually assess the actual needs of the crops or the livestock, and then we can really fit to the inputs, to the demand. So actually, we can see many types of technologies already in the market. I would like to give some examples, like remote sensing using satellites. So we have the Copernicus system of the European Commission, which is now free available with the Sentinel. Everybody can download satellite images with 10 by 10 meter resolution, which is very high spatial resolution. Even the farmers, during the winter time, even they don't have to, for example, do work in the fields, they can actually be trained and download the images from the last years to see what their fields are progressing, which is great actually advantage of using. Of course, drones, we can see many drones flying over the many fields. Cameras now are mounted on the tractors, and then they scan the fields, both on the soil or the crop canopy. We also now have seen robotic platforms, like even we were discussing 5 years ago, robotic platforms were only on a research scale, but now in Europe, there are actually a number of companies, commercial companies, and they actually have real sales with European farmers. Some of these examples, for example, are robotic platforms for weed control in organic vegetables, because it's a very big issue. Another thing is, of course, the software, like farm management information systems. So as we know, farmers should now be transformed into businessmen. So a farm now, it's a business unit. So we do have to have tools like software to have the input and the outputs to measure and the count, and they give the results. And of course, we have other applications for specific to different domains. Like for irrigation, we have many systems for precision irrigation, measuring the exact water content, and then automatically apply the available water. We have autopilot systems on the tractors, so the tractors are always following a straight line, which can actually reduce up to 20% of overlaps. And overlaps means 20% reduce the inputs. And of course, we have also lots of application for precision crop protection, actually to reduce the sprayers and also the crop protection products, which is very much related to the Green Deal targets. So I think the future is bright, if we can say so. The thing is how to make the mainstream farmer follow, and the small and the medium farmers follow these technologies. Thank you.
Yes, this is exactly a big problem. I mean, that is how to convince the farmers to apply, and first to know the technologies, then to apply the technologies and make profit out of it. Are there any concrete examples that from certain farms in Greece probably or elsewhere in Europe or internationally that farmers have really make profit out of the new technologies? Do they have reduced actually the inputs and increase their income probably and increase the productivity?
Yes, that's a very good question, and I think this is the question to be addressed when we talk, or that's the question also all the farmers ask about. So if we adopt this technology, am I going to save my inputs? And most importantly, am I going to make more money out of it? So for this reason, we have many examples. Of course, in Europe, it's been, as you know, Professor Papadakis, it's been available in practice for many years. But even in Greece, which is a small country with small fields and also scattered across different parts, we do also see that there are many good examples, for example, for precision irrigation. Because the technology now is very mature, it's very cheap, it's very low cost, it's very easy to install in the fields, and we can actually see a lot of benefits for reducing like water about 20% with very low cost sensors, and also increase the productivity because it's optimized the inputs and even the quality actually, because that's also related to each other. We also have done that with sprayers, for example, because we have just using specific just nozzles with low drift nozzles, we actually see that we reduce the spray drift that goes to neighboring farms and fields. Even, we have a farmer with conventional farming, and then there is another farmer with organic farming, and then, the conventional sprayers can go to the next one. So that's, these systems can actually reduce the spray drift. So it's good for the farmer, it's good for the neighboring farmers, it's good also for the citizens that we actually have less residues.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Professor Fountas. And let's further discuss now new emerging technologies for agriculture that come actually from other fields. And I would like to ask Professor Ftenakis, dear Vasilis, you are dealing with photovoltaics for many years now. And you know the technology, you know the economics, you know the environmental impact and all that related to this technology. Now we see that photovoltaics are coming into agriculture. So we have the so-called agrivoltaics that have already been applied in open field crops and but also on structures like greenhouses. And first of all, I would like you to introduce us to this technology, say a few things about how important is solar energy and photovoltaics for preventing the acceleration of climate change. And what do you think about the benefits of the photovoltaics, not only in agriculture, but in general? Now the farmers have also the opportunity to implement photovoltaics in their farms, combining the electricity production and also the double use of land, say. Is there really environmental benefit from photovoltaics? What do you think? Are they really making money for the farmers and for the world? And can we save the world with solar energy? What do you think?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Papadakis, for the invitation. Absolutely. Solar energy is part in any and every clean energy transition in any country in the world at different levels. I mean, it is so logical. It is the most abundant, and it has become the most affordable source of electricity. In the United States, we actually looking into photovoltaics getting into 60, 70% by 2030, 2035. We have already solar energy penetrating in markets in California at about 35, 40% during peak hours. I'm talking about the biggest consumption over the course of a year. And yes, people do make money out of solar energy. And of course, every actual investment has to have a good return. Now, the prices in the southwest of the United States, that it resembles in some way the best conditions in Greece of solar energy are down to 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, I know in Greece it's more expensive. There are other barriers there, financial barriers and so on. But the Department of Energy that I'm engaged with in my research has a clear path to reduce the price of solar electricity down to 2 cents per kilowatt hour by 2030. And some in the industry, they're even more ambitious than that. And they have roadmaps to reduce the electricity from solar energy down to 1 cent without incentives from kilowatt hour. So we're talking about tremendous reductions in the price. And we knew, obviously, for many decades that solar energy and other renewable energy like wind, they're the best for the environment. We knew that for many decades. We had questions about how affordable that could be. Now there is the answer. The cost of solar energy is actually the lowest among all other technologies, especially in countries like the south of the US and Greece. Most of the land in Greece and the islands, that they're blessed with very good solar resources. It is great for the environment. It is actually the best technology for the environment if you account for the whole life cycle. And this is what we do at Columbia University. We are looking in all the energy investments in the life cycle, and we take into account the mining of the resources from the silica, the aluminum, the zinc, whatever goes into photovoltaics, also the copper that goes into the cables, and the galvanized steel, again, that goes into the structures. And we sum all of this energy and we compare with the energy that you can get out of photovoltaics operating. And we see multiples there. The ratio that we call the energy return on energy investment from photovoltaics can be as high as 50 or 60. So over a course of a life of 30 years, it can give you 50, 60 times more energy than the energy consumed in the whole life cycle, accounting also for the energy that they will need to consume at the end of the life during recycling. Now, in the United States, we're looking also to extend how the life of operation can be extended to beyond 30 years. I mean, there are issues of encapsulation and also to reduce the degradation per year that happens naturally in crystals that are undergoing very many thermal cycles. But we think that photovoltaics could be designed so they last 40 years, 45 years. Then the energy return on energy investment will be even higher. Now, going back into the market and the potential, obviously, revenue and profit, the agriculture, actually, the farmers, the people that work and have rights on the land, they would have a dual use of the land. They would have the revenue and the income and the associated profits from the crops that they harvest, but also they could have additional income from photovoltaics. It could be some reduction in the total. So they may not have, depending on the crop really, they may not have 2 times, they may not have the exact sum of the electricity generated income and the crop generated income. There could be some reduction depending. For example, if they put clover, actually it needs a lot of sun. Perhaps it's not a very good application with photovoltaics. They need to space them apart. But if they, for example, they farm potatoes, I think they can survive and they can even actually give a better product if they're somewhat shaded. So it could be studies that I've seen. They point out that if not 200% additional income, let's say 100 and 100, it could be something in the order of 180% additional income. Of course, there'll be a question of upfront cost. And there is really the role of the financial markets and the government and how to give the incentives for the farmers to have the upfront cost at a very reasonable loan or zero interest loans that will allow this actual infrastructure to happen. But we have many benefits to the environment. In addition to the climate change, in addition to reducing the emissions from thermoelectric generation using fossil fuels, obviously photovoltaics and wind turbines, they don't produce any emissions during their life cycle. They have some emissions during the manufacturing, but those are orders of magnitude lower than the emissions of coal or natural gas-based power plants. Also, those power plants, they use water. They use water for cooling. And there is a competition on the water, obviously, between agriculture and power plants. In the United States, the power plants have actually the biggest share into the water consumption, even bigger than agriculture. I think it's about 45% versus 38%. Thermoelectric power plants need a lot of water. So if we have a transition into renewable energy, solar, wind, then we save water, and then we have more water for agriculture. There are also other pathways that are happening because of the low price of solar energy. We can produce fresh water from saline water. We can use actually the drainage from agricultural water and desalinate that water and have fresh water. And we have projects of this kind in Central Valley in California, where the agricultural water is being collected and there are pilots that they are desalinating the water for reuse. So there is a closed loop there that it can only benefit in more than one way, not only on the immediate financial profit, but also in the long term, it could help the farmers. I could add details on this if you wish, Dr. Papadakis, but I wanted actually to make the introduction to this as short as possible and as simple as possible.
Thank you very much, because sure, if we have more time, we could discuss for many hours about these subjects. I know that there are many technical details behind all these results that you have for the dimensions and the good examples. But since we have with us Mr. Kanopoulos, dear Nick, I know that you are one of the first comers to the use of agrivoltaics in Greece, but not only in Greece, in Europe, I would say, and perhaps outside Europe as well. I don't know, but you can say, because you are from the first companies. Bright Solar is one from the first companies in the world actually applied this technology in agriculture, and we are very proud that Greece has Bright Solar. Could you please share your experiences and tell us more about this technology and the prospects for the farmers and what can be the future from this technology? What we can expect in the years to come?
Okay, thank you. I can give you some concrete data on that. First of all, the biggest problem we are facing worldwide, and of course the European Union is trying to address, is the nexus of food, water, and energy. Why? Because the UN predicts the world's population to increase to 9.7 billion by 2050. In order to feed this many people, we need to increase agricultural production 70 to 100% compared to today's levels, and that this cannot happen using conventional means because agriculture consumes 70% of water and 14% of energy globally today. Therefore, you cannot really double production in open field agriculture. We need to use technology, and the most promising technology is greenhouse farming, because in greenhouse farming, we have 10x increase in the yield per square meter by using 10 times less water, which is the most important thing. But there is a penalty, and the penalty is energy use, which is 10 times more. And most of it is based on fossil fuel energy, which has a detrimental environmental impact. So what we need to do is we need to use renewable resources to cover the energy requirements for farming, and especially in greenhouse farming, and secondarily in open land farming, where we can have a dual use of the land, because conventional PV is good, as Vasilis said, but in many countries, there's not enough land. For example, in Holland, starting next year, there's not going to be allowed to build a PV farm unless you do farming of actual crops at the same time. In Greece, you very well know that by law, you cannot use fertile land to build a solar plant. It's got to be a non-productive land. And this is getting more and more scarce. Therefore, agri-PV becomes a necessity for the use of the land. This is one reason. The second reason is for protection of the plants due to adverse weather conditions. You can protect the plants from snow, hail, and torrent rain, winds, birds eating the crops and stuff like that. But not agri-PV the way they started doing it in the US, where they use conventional solar panels and they space them together. I'm talking about, imagine of a carport under which there is crops. However, the panels there have to be transparent. Otherwise, there's no crop growth. The same thing, you can install transparent solar panels on a greenhouse, and there the economics makes great sense, because depending where you install it, in which part of the world, you can have IRR for 20 years for a project like that, ranging from 15% all the way to 40%. We've done a pilot greenhouse in Greece over a vineyard with the largest winemaker here, with excellent results. We've done agri-PV in Holland over blueberries, also very good results. We are doing 2 retrofit projects in the US over flowers and cannabis. And we are also doing avocados and tomatoes in Greece, and looking to install over pears in Holland. Our product is a transparent solar panel that allows plants in the greenhouse to grow without any loss of yield. And at the same time, the panels produce energy. Technologically speaking, there are certain advantages and technological differentiation because of the ability to harvest and use UV light that is otherwise useless for most plants and solar cell applications. And in agri-PV, we also have a support structure that uses gutters to collect rainwater, because the plants are completely protected. And I'm not talking about grazing or grass here. I'm talking about blueberries, avocados. We're talking about strawberries and food, lettuce, for example, food related agriculture. So we collect the rainwater, store it, and then the farmer can use it at the quantity and at the time when he needs to water the farm. in an effort to solve what I said in the beginning, the nexus of food, energy, and water. So it makes financial sense, and we have data to support that. And it can yield zero carbon footprint per kilogram of crops produced, because the energy is all clean energy and compensates for everything else used in order to the energy footprint of everything else used in order to produce the crops. And given the fact that all the machinery is going to be electric, I mean, John Deere, one of the largest manufacturers of farm equipment, is changing to electric machinery that can yield even negative CO2 footprints per kilogram of crop, which will decarbonize agriculture, as is the goal for the EU towards the completely carbon neutral society by 2050. And agriculture is a big polluter, basically. And we are trying to to develop these technologies in order to decarbonize agriculture, and at the same time use a positive incentive with the farmer in order to install these technologies. But in this case, in Agri-PV, there is also a second business model that I think is more prevalent, where the installation is not done by the farmer, but is done by a PV or energy producer or a PV installer, where the value proposition to the farmer is, okay, we're going to protect your plants for free. We're going to manage the water and give you a water supply, but we are going to market the energy we produce in the installation ourselves. We see this model with very large power companies, like establishing Agri-PV divisions, like Enel from Italy, which is the largest renewable resource installer in the world, EDF in France, BayWa in Germany, and so forth. Now, on the Agri-PV, there is also state-level positive incentives where they essentially give you a positive subsidy per kilowatt hour. The two pioneer states for this are Massachusetts and New Jersey, where they essentially they pay you 6 cents per kilowatt hour to do dual use of land, assuming that you don't block the light for more than 50%. So the world, I think, is moving in that direction, and there will be a substantial impact on agricultural emissions because of that.
Thank you very much. Time is pressing, but I must ask you one, and I want a quick answer. What about legislation in Greece? And is there enough good legislation for the growth of Agri-PV, or we need to do something?
That's a very good question. In fact, the legislation is for regular PV right now in terms of permitting and all that. Mm-hmm. But the Ministry of Agriculture is trying to work out a new legal framework along with the Ministry of the Energy and Environment, mm-hmm, in order to incentivize the installation of Agri-PV and perhaps also subsidize the installation through ELGA, because that way all the claims due to disasters because of the weather will be minimized or zero, because the plants will be protected. So Greece is in the process of installing this kind of installation, of legislation.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Time is pressing, as I mentioned, and we also have with us Dr. Lira Diarsisi. You work in a very dry region of the world. And you have experiences that we probably will live in Greece after some years, where the temperature will go up and the available water will be less. So please give us some of your experience that you already have developed in the United Arab Emirates or elsewhere in the region, about what we can do with agriculture in the era of climate change and temperature rise and less resources are available. What do you think?
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Papadakis, for the question, and I would like also to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to participate in this high-level panelist discussion. So I joined the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture as postdoc in 2013. And frankly speaking, coming from Greece to UAE to work here and to live, of course, you understand that at the beginning was a real shock, because here what we actually say is purely desert. So although Greece is, it's a Mediterranean country, we also have very dry summer season. But comparing to what I am experiencing here in UAE, it's really still think that, Greece, even during summertime, is really a paradise still. So the motto that we have at our center here is that we are working the agriculture for tomorrow, considering the climate, the vexing challenges that the climate change impact is pushing on global basis to tackle such kind of issue. So from our perspective, our research and our work is focused on how we could utilize actually the saline water resources, whatever low quality and marginal lands are also available, like salt-affected areas, salinized areas, barren lands, where actually the local farming communities are really struggling to produce food. So we are focusing on circular food systems, like for the one that I'm leading on, which is about using, we had a kind of, let's say, collaboration and partnership in the past together about utilizing the reject brine from desalination, which is an environmental hazard and still is a huge water quantity produced as a byproduct from desalination process. So we are utilizing such kind of resources, for example, to grow fish, and then the nutrients from the fish, their waste, are utilized as fertilizers for highly salt-tolerant plants like halophytes. So these halophytic species can be used for food, for feed, and for other uses as well. So such kind of crops that can really tolerate such high salinity, such high elevated salinity stress, they could be, very promising for desert and not only environments. Actually, even in Greece, as far as I know, for example, the rocks on fire is utilized in Crete Island, is consumed from the local Cretan communities, from the local citizens. So I strongly believe that the halophytic crops and the halophytic plants can constitute one group that can really generate and create added value for the farming communities that can really are really struggling to produce food in such marginal areas.
Okay, so this is one possible way to follow in the not only the near future, but even right now, because there are already such areas, similar areas in Greece, where the soil is salinized and the water resources are already brackish water or even near to the sea water, salinity near to the sea water. Okay, so thank you very much, all of you. for this fruitful discussion and all the information that you have supplied to our audience. It was very useful to listen to all of you and learn about the new technologies and the new opportunities that our farmers have, and they probably don't know, but the future is not coming, it's here actually. What you said is already here, and we should go further with these technologies for the profit, not only for the farmers, but also for the society. Now we will have a nice talk, the so-called Fireside chat between a farmer and a journalist. And I don't know if I should make that introduction or okay. We have with us the farmer, Mr. Kostas Kravas, and we also have the journalist from the Agro News, Mr. Yannis Panagos, and they are going to have a debate. So I don't know exactly what the debate will be, so very anxious to hear it. So please.
Καλησπέρα σας.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, dear Kostas. Dear interlocutors, dear listeners, dear friends. Now, we are discussing climate change and how it affects agriculture. And so for a quarter or so, we will have a very interesting discussion with dear Kostas Kravas, a farmer from Macedonia, Malgara, Thessaloniki, if I'm right. Yes. Now, Kostas Kravas is known thanks to the initiatives taken in the field of new technologies. And if I'm not wrong, he is indeed a pioneer in having integrated new technologies in the farm, in farming. Now, we have listened to much, we have read much, and some of us have also had the opportunity to talk to you, Kostas, about your achievements. Now, I would like to understand, first and foremost, in order to also facilitate understanding for our listeners, as to what has driven you to take that risk and to take that decision. Now, thank you very much. I would like to thank you for inviting me, for having me here. Now, at a certain time, it's high time we did some choices, and usually this takes place when drastic changes in one's life are observed. Now I realized the difference in the management paradigm in Greece. I remember when my father, at the age of 55, decided to leave agriculture back then. I was too young, but I had to shoulder the responsibility of the family tradition. So the dilemma was either you just follow your father's traces and by trying to improve things, or you just see what is there around, you have a deep immersion, and you risk hoping that such a leap forward may help you benefit from that. Now, I have opted for the latter. Now, is it that rice crops are more promising when it comes to applying new technologies, or can this be replicated to other crops? Now, I would not think that this depends on the crops. I do believe that there needs to be a minimum income so that specific investments may be justified from an entrepreneurial point of view. I mean, when I started, 300,000 euros sounded reasonable. Now this has halved in the meantime. And I'm thinking of the investment made. Now, help us understand when did you start? Now, I started in 2016 with purchasing the necessary equipment and by adopting the precision farming practices. So for the past 5 years, right? And what is the turnover, or rather, what used to be your turnover in 2016, and what is it now? Now, back then, there were approximately 100 acres with a 300,000 turnover. Now we have 130 acres, and more or less, we have an additional 100,000 euro of turnover. Okay. Now, what is the equipment you have used? What are the applications you have integrated, you have adopted? Now, the most important thing we had to change, to transform, was our mindset, and that was very, very important. So how we had to take decisions, how agricultural management was supposed to be done. Back then, decisions used to be taken once on the tractor. You know that? I mean, without any substantiated data. When it comes to precision agriculture, at least 2 days earlier, one has to have their maps in place and have all the data available. And so decisions are made actually before you go on the tractor, before you go on the farm. This is something which marks a drastic change in mindset, in the way we work. Now, is information today the most essential part of what we have been discussing? Or are we talking also about adopting technologies amidst the way? Now, you know, Yanis, this equipment is endowed with technology, and data is accumulated, is collected, and it gives rise to the generation of new information. So now it goes without saying that hardware goes hand in hand with the information stored. I'm under the impression that when it comes to data collection, things have delivered and efforts have been crowned with success. So from certain viewpoints, we are prepared to apply all that. But what is a matter of concern for most farmers I have been talking to is the following. Well, okay, I know what I have to do, but how am I to implement that in practice? How am I to adopt this solution as an everyday routine practice. Here lies the problem. So how are we to identify these tools? This is the decision that Leonidas had to take before the battle against the Persians. So this is a risk, this is a bet. You have to take that risk to invest some time and money to something new. Whatever is around is an ecosystem, but at the end of the day, it is up to you to take a serious decision, a binding decision in terms of money, of capacity building, and so on and so forth. Okay, before providing some figures when it comes to the efficiency and effectiveness of this process, what is approximately the investment you have made when it comes to the infrastructure? Now, when we talk about technology cost, this is an additional 30% on top of the equipment purchase cost. A fertilizer dispenser, for example, is by 30% more expensive. But someone who opts for changing their hardware and equipment may change, for example, their tractor, but this is not indispensable, so I do not include that. Okay, and now let us talk about the profit. Could you just provide some simple examples, some figures? Now, we were lucky enough to have collected data as to the productivity of our farms since the 90s. So we had quantitative data regarding moisture and crops. Besides, there were no figures available for the extended area for the rice crops, for example. The first year was very difficult, I have to say. I remember that we were disillusioned at the beginning, but the second year proved us our decision right. We received an additional 16% of the rice kilograms as against the previous decade, so including good and bad years. And we reduced the use of inputs by 20%, which means a net profit of approximately 70 to 80,000 euro. Not negligible at all. It is quite a considerable profit. And how long did it take for you to amortize the investment? 6 years approximately. But is it likely for you to have to make other investments? Well, yes, probably yes. But we already have an up-to-date fleet that may be upgraded by making small investments. Besides, Yanis, there are two other advantages that are unknown in Greece. On the one hand, the job may be done by someone who is not an entrepreneur. It is not up to the farmer or the tractor to take the decision, you know. And so not necessarily the farmer has to be the entrepreneur. Secondly, there's a great positive impact on environment because a decrease in inputs has serious positive consequences, positive impact for natural resources.
Now, what about this maze of the market? To find a way out if you need to have such exploitation? Well, development is the key for many multinationals building equipment. And of course, there is a convergence. The two ones, the green and the blue one, concentrate many different companies that are doing such things and merge them. One good idea would be to merge with such a company. It opens up a pathway. Then you need a consultant who will help you in the agronomist part. This cannot be given by the machine. Even if you have the best machine, if you don't have the good piece of advice, then you cannot deliver. Two other main points, two other main ingredients. Okay, are there these people close to our farmers right now? Well, no, they are not close to our farmers, but these will get there, I would say. There are many more than when we started in 2016. Some people were amateurs back then. They were doing it as a hobby. Nowadays, there is a new market shaping from these type of people, consultants, and they can give a serious piece of advice. Where can we be led? How can you dream that? Well, the vision can be seen by these big companies in Hanover. The other year, there was a presentation of a new model with an autonomous body, a nest of a drone which wakes up every morning and takes a photo of all the pests, picks up one of the 3 pesticides in the nest, and then it sprays each pest, having an economy of 99% the drug. This happens daily until we get the whole crop of rice. Future is bright, and it does not include the farmer necessarily as a farmer slash agronomist, but as an entrepreneur, a person that will buy all that, will coordinate that, and will make technology work for him or her. I don't know whether we have more time. I think that we exhausted our time. We said that in these few minutes we could discuss about many interesting things. We did so. Whoever wants to follow it up may get the incentives needed to move on. We are here with Agrenda. We are here. I can help in the communication of these things, and you may set a good example. Thank you so much, Kostas. Thank you for this meeting. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Καλησπέρα, ξεκινάει.
Hello. Let us start with the final session of a truly interesting conference. And I can tell you that the panel is such that guarantees a truly powerful finale. Our topic is climate change and finding opportunities. It is a session where we can see the convergence of all the three aspects of time. The past, which bequeaths to the Greek economy an investment productive gap of 100 billion euros or 130 billion euros, to use the calculations of Pisarides committee. The present, where the climate change comes from, setting new data on the table, which leads humanity to redesign how it produces, how it moves, how it acts overall in history. At the same time, in the present, there will be technological advancements. We listened before to a brilliant Greek farmer, Mr. Kravas, who was talking about precision farming and how these applications are used in his production. So these technological applications are such that we couldn't have imagined some years ago. And of course, there is the other dimension of the future, which brings new challenges, not just to face, or rather to adapt climate change and mitigate its impact, but also humanity should produce more food because the worldwide population increases and food for more and more demanding consumers. And all that could be done with less resources, produce more with less, as it is the phrase, with less resources, so with more, rather, eco-friendly way. How can we do all that? One is the buzzword, investment. And for investment, we need funding. This is what we're going to discuss for the next 50 to 55 minutes. Let me start with Papagiannidis, the General Secretary from the Ministry of Agricultural Development and Food. I would say that he's at the heart of the news for two reasons. First, because we expect the procurement for some programs from the Agricultural Development Program 2021-2022, and then following for 2023. In this conjuncture, if I can recall well, we're talking about 1.7 billion euros procurement for the next period. The programs that are very interesting for businesses and farmers. The livestock breeding, processing, new farmers. You understand, Mr. Papagiannidis, that the audience would be very interested in your news, in your information. And then there is a second dimension. Last Monday, you presented a very innovative program of agricultural development, either 2.0, that is water 2.0, 1.6 million euros connected to the RF. Furthermore, on the RF, there is a big interest. Now, let us have two rounds of discussion. But to do so, let us start by asking you first about the first agricultural program, and then come to the end with the RRF and irrigation infrastructure for the second round. Okay, Ms. Papagiannidis, please, you have the floor. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the organizer. It's my great honor to participate in this session. Indeed, this was not programmed because you didn't know what the ministry prepares, but it is more trendy than ever after the announcement made last Monday on either 2.0, water 2.0, that is, with the Prime Minister being present, the Minister, Mr. Libanos was there equally, which was expected, and of course, the two important ministers, financially speaking, that is, the two competent ministers on finance. I will keep some info for the second round. I was talking about Mr. Pathalas and Mr. Skylakakis, but we shall catch up during the second round talking about investment. Now, the Rural Development Program, we are preparing a big team of procurement because it's not just about one procurement. Today, 2 hours ago, I signed the procurement on new farmers, which starts from tomorrow onwards. For the first time, following many, many years, as you know, I used to be from 2004 to 2009 a special secretary for community resources, community funds and investment. We managed to have a pre-publication of all these measures. I'm talking about the plans to improve things, the plans that will be launched in January, because we must finish with the new farmers and submissions. We're talking about farming that was examined today, and we took the final decisions. All these projects are well planned. We have not taken by surprise, neither investors nor farmers. There are many pre-publications when it comes to the reforestation of agricultural lands, 80 million. The denitrification. Now, I'm not measuring the exotic one as an investment, in spite of the fact that we're talking about 200 million euros per year. It will be paid on December 15th. We're talking about well-being, which is a Zoe and Greek new program. We're talking about many different programs which, along some minor investment programs, I have behind me a map, more than 1.2 million euros. In the conference, I presented the 350 projects that we are doing, along with the fishery refugees that we are having, shelters that we're having today in Greece. So we are preparing the procurement that we have pre-published, and let me stress it, because thus, indeed, we give some space to every municipality, to the region, as I told you before, to share, to allocate the job, because a person can see that there are measures to be awaited. Also, we're giving the time to importers. Many countries, I remember that many countries were telling me, why do you publish last minute? When are we going to have the time? These are the issues of currency, etc. So we have timely published all these programs. We're talking about 40 million euros for agricultural routing. And then, of course, there will be a new generation of small infrastructure up to 2.1 million euros in the field of water, so that we shall talk about new technologies, telemetrics, change networks, new meters, etc. Investments in farming should go hand in hand with a benefit, either the increase of the revenue for farmers or the improvement of the environment. So I think that we're talking about 2 billion euros. If we add to that what we announced, if we add the funds that were guaranteed for the new CAP, we're talking about 20 billion euros. The multi-annual was decreased by 10%. Our country will get the same amount of money. I think that as a first part, this money will suffice, and then we can specialize some further things that we have recently announced. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. No, I would like to thank you for your clarity in keeping the time, because we have to be quite on time and be very concise so that we can say many interesting things. Now, let me turn to Mr. Katanaros from Piraeus Bank. Mr. Katanaros, we listened to many different programs promoted by the Ministry of Rural Development, the procurements of the Rural Development Program. Since Piraeus Bank is the leader in agricultural loyalty, and what do you plan as a bank to support farmers so that they can use all these programs? What about your credits? And what are your plans about the green transition, not just in agri-food, but broadly speaking in the economy? Because many companies want to decrease their environmental footprint, but also use the opportunities that come from the climate change. You have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here. I would like to congratulate the organizing committee for this quite interesting conference that will serve as a reference point. Now, the strategies we have undertaken when it comes to climate change are multifaceted. Piraeus Bank, by having acknowledged many years ago the consequences of climate change on the environment, on society, has drafted a policy with the following axes: decrease of the energy footprint, investment in RES, promotion of green banking products with favorable terms, with a view to supporting businesses and farmers wishing to make investments in RES, green transport, and waste management. Additionally, we have started supplying what is known as sustainability-linked loans with lower rates, special loans for renewable energy sources for farmers, as well as investment products, as for example, private banking and investment mutual funds. Additionally, there's an innovation that was launched some years ago that is contractual banking. Contractual banking is a driver for rural development as it utilizes the potential of all the stakeholders of the farming, the agricultural sector, thus contributing to enhancing its competitiveness. It ensures the necessary liquidity and due time at all parts of the supply chain through specific and targeted funding tools. Contractual banking was launched in 2013 and since then has left its sign and footprint on the market for benefits both for farmers, manufacturing, farming groups, associations, etc. This is shown by the degree contractual banking has been reinforced. It has penetrated an extended range of solutions covering remote areas, thereby contributing to the sustainable development of farm businesses based on specific criteria. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having been concise. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Dimitrakopoulos from the European Investment Fund. Now, Mr. Dimitrakopoulos, how will you contribute, and having in mind that the EU has set ambitious targets when it comes, of course, to the support of farmers and farming businesses during green transition? Thank you. Thank you very much for this question. I would like to thank the organizing committee and the Piraeus Bank for having invited me here. Thank you very much for the opportunity you are giving me to present how funding instruments may support and back farming businesses. Allow me to say what EIF has been doing. EIF is devoted to making credit accessible for all SMEs, including farming businesses, with a view to boosting competitiveness in Europe. So we are offering a wide range of innovative products supporting European SMEs, starting from microfinance to venture capitals and guarantees through European programs. We firmly believe that a rural economy for each and every country is a pillar for national and regional economy, given that it contributes to preserving employment and therefore the creation of income in the rural areas, etc. The programs of EIA contribute to employment, innovation, and growth. But I don't mean to tire you with further details. I just wanted to explain to our listeners that this is not a bank. We just create and provide similar products in order to help SMEs and in order to multiply the various funding channels in order to enhance and ensure accessibility of funding opportunities. And of course, this is also extended to high-risk companies, which is why we also have been supporting banks. You have to know that our programs go hand in hand with subsidy or grant programs. Through a grant contest, through a financial instrument, €1 of national contribution may be leveraged even five times more, which means that there is 5 times more likelihood for farming agricultural SMEs to be financed. I know very well that managing authorities still are experiencing the transfer of funding, but of course this will not be done in a fortnight. The Commission has said that it intends to help and to finance all agricultural businesses thanks to the benefits they offer. And of course, leverage is a very critical aspect. So thanks to the leverage and thanks to the available agricultural programs, right now 6 in 9 countries, we are trying to bridge financing gaps, helping small and medium-sized agricultural companies to meet their needs. Since 8 years, EIF, through the banks we have been cooperating with, have earmarked more than €356,000 as loans in European companies. We're lag behind in Greece, who has just started, but what we need to do, thanks to the support of the Greek government, we have set 3 objectives. 1, enhancing accessibility to funding mechanisms for farmers. Also, the transfer of risk to intermediaries, that is banks, and the reduction of the need for collaterals. So thanks to the support of Rural Development Ministry, we have established an innovative instrument, that is the Agricultural Fund, to ensure accessibility to credits through loan guarantee for cattle breeders, farmers, etc. We have been trying thus to promote the financing of agricultural companies to boost their competitiveness, to cope with the need to reach climate-related objectives, the creation of new jobs, or at least the maintenance of the existing ones, and the increase of income through a reduction of the financing cost. Today, this product is available through 7 banks. It supports Action 414 and 424 in the Agri-food sector, and the minimum loan is €25,000 with a maximum of €5 million. Currently, we have more than 1,300 applications through the NSRF. Contractualization of 150 approximately. So we are delivering, we are taking steps forward, and I believe, of course, that all consultants or business consultants that help the farmers need to help convince them by highlighting the benefits offered by this product. And please be advised that from Monday onwards, we will be able to offer all agricultural SMEs an autonomous working capital loan, which will be available just upon application. I believe that through the fund, many Greek agricultural companies may benefit. Thank you.
I cannot listen to you, unfortunately. Yes, now, yes. Go ahead, please. Can you hear me? Yes. Well, I kept the message of optimism, but also the news you gave to us. And I would say the very interesting passing of the ball for the second round of the discussion vis-a-vis the access of Greek farmers and agricultural businesses to funding, and the trend, if I read it well, that you presented, that is the direction that in the future we shall talk less about direct subsidies and more about the use of financial tools. We understand that the first question that is raised, what are the tools and how can we get prepared from now to be ready in the new programming period? But I will ask you for startups later on. Now, first round continues. Mr. Karidis, please comment on funding. What is your feeling about access of good businesses to funding in the agri-food sector? But first, could you please present us your company, Sporos Fund, where you are a partner? Reading your website, I saw highly interesting things. I would dare to say that I didn't know that companies existed with such a specialized direction to funding. You incentivized me a lot, and indeed I'm looking forward to your speech. First of all, let me thank deeply all of you for this invitation and for the brilliant organization. Congrats to New Generation, New Agriculture, and Stavrouniak Foundation, which are behind this international conference, which is highly inclusive. These days, we have listened to the whole range of different views, actions, and best practices. I would like us to start with the words that were said by the National Treasury of the UK, Sir David Attenborough. In COP26, he highlighted the value of partnership. He said, I quote, if we were proven highly powerful to destabilize the planet, working each one separately, for sure, we're equally powerful to rebalance it if we work all together and if we join forces. End of quote. And of course, this is related to funding, investment, finance. I listened to what Mr. Dimitrakopoulos said about leverage, which will be a main tool of development due to the architecture of the RRF, the Equal Position Fund, and all other available tools. We are living a true rebirth, a renaissance. Let me stress 3 points. First, if we continue with today's rate of consumption until 2050, we shall need 3 planets to materialize, or rather to satisfy our current needs. Second, even if we meet the 100% of our objectives at the level of RES, then these would suffice to just meet the 55% of the targets of the Paris Agreement. The remaining 45% is related to the production and consumption ways, to what we name circular economy, which is not a developed form of recycling, but how should I put it? It is a holistic mindset vis-a-vis the way through which we extend the lifespan of any product, either it is the industry or the agricultural sector or blue economy, blue growth, and other sectors that are a benefit for our country. All research suggests that the 90% of waste is created during the planning phase of a project. So the way in which we plan something defines greatly its development within the value chains. It's not a coincidence that Greece and Cyprus, based on the report that was published by the Pesaridis Committee, have a percentage of circular use of materials approximately 2%, where the Netherlands amount to 30%. There is a big way to get better through minor changes. If I may share my screen to show to you quite briefly certain aspects of our endeavor. I believe that you can see it now. Let me reply to two questions shortly. Why circular economy is a very important investment opportunity and the development necessity of our country, and how can we set it in motion based on the investment strategy that we mentioned before. When it comes to why, it's needless for me to say many things. There is a threefold dimension between the dynamic created in the market, especially after the pandemic, the stakeholder actions across all levels, and the new regulation and standards that anti-porters coming in an exponential way within the European Green Deal, the new national plan on circular economy that updates the previous national strategy, the action plan of the European Commission on the new policy, the new strategy, the climate law that changes all data, and of course, what was mentioned before by Mr. Papagiannis as well. So, we're not just talking about something that will happen in the future, we're talking about the present. Companies that will be able to adapt in this present more quickly will be more competitive and will decrease their risk levels, thus they will have bigger profit. Here we can see some data about how the market change when it comes to transition into circular economy. Private equity funds have multiplied by 10 within some years. And when it comes to the stock exchange, there has been an increase by 6% up to 2020. Based on the 2021 data published 1 week ago, this increase is multiplied by 26. We can see that there is an investment gap in our region and a huge opportunity at the European level. Here you may see the data coming from a research conducted in 201 Greek companies, along with Kappa Research, to build our own argumentation. We saw something very interesting. First, 9 out of 10 companies that innovated at the level of production are doing so to decrease their cost. Second important point, the majority of Greek companies do not have right now a technology to measure the waste and water consumption so that we can have the necessary data to see how the situation can improve. Equally important is the fact that many businesses, 39%, in spite of the fact that they have streams of materials that can be recycled or reused, they do not materialize a program to do so, in spite of the fact that they could open new markets. 8 out of 10 Greek SMEs have not invested even 1 euro in R&D during the last 3 years. Why? The main reason, apart from the lack of funding, is the lack of specialized consulting services or knowledge about how you're going to materialize this transition, how you're going to set it in motion. We see some other consumer trends, that is how the consumption mindset changes, especially amongst the youngers. I don't mean to tire you with the details. Let us say that approximately 60% of consumers today in Greece are willing to pay more for durable products or might be recycled. And yet this increases exponentially in younger ages, where they believe that it's more important to talk about the quality of a product compared to the CSR profile of a commodity. By quality, I mean resilience, durability, and other important indicators. When it comes to how are we going to do it, and this will be the end of my speech, I will not tire you with the details. We saw that there are 3 parallel gaps: lack of awareness, lack of expertise, and lack of funding. Obviously, due to the known problems we've gone through during the last year, whereas now we can see a recovery both for the banks and the real economy. So we work across three levels. On the one hand, there is an impact investment fund, the first in thousands in Europe, that will focus on circular economy with an initial capital of 30 million euros. At the same time, we give the necessary knowledge and piece of advice with specialized advice when it comes to conveying this model in circular economy per sector, either this is agri-food, brew growth, energy, tourism, or other important sectors. And last but not least, awareness raising. We have already organized 2 Athens Fora. We had the joy to see the participation of New Agriculture, New Generation, and other very important bodies, the Bank of Greece, or international bodies, because indeed it is important to put different stakeholders to work together and co-shape this nexus of partnerships on which circular economy is based. This is an indicative framework of our partners. That was all as a first piece of data, and I will be more than glad to discuss with you the details. Let me tell you, there are many opportunities for the agri-food sector. Yesterday, we talked to a general fund. They are interested in importing technology that can use lignite as a land improver in former lignite areas. So we understand that something that used to be a sort of emissions to turn into a source of improvement, soil conditioner, and reduction of the pollution. We have to innovate in our minds as well. It's very important to collaborate at the level of businesses, innovative funding tools, banks, something that is supported by EAF and other important bodies. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Karidis. Keep please the question. Sporos Fund, under what criteria will it choose the businesses that you will invest in? It's an obvious question, but let us first have the second round. Mr. Papagiannidis, let us start the second round quite briefly. Mr. Papagiannidis, obviously we need a comment about what Mr. Dimitrakopoulos said, that is access of farmers and agricultural businesses to funding tools, and then what they can wait from the RRF. There are many expectations. There is a program of 520 million euros with a plethora of actions. Or rather, the RRF has an investment orientation, especially when it comes to the environment and digitalization. Now, what about Greek farmers? What can they wait from that? And a comment for what Mr. Dimitrakopoulos said about the access to funding. Is it easy or not? Please unmute yourself. Thank you. Yes. Well, a Greek farmer is a very difficult story. In the previous session, this was said by the very well-known farmer he talked about rice, I remember, and he said that his father turned 75 to give the reins to the younger person who was already 45. This is the exception to the rule. Usually, farmers go until the end. They are until the end in the farm. What do I mean by that? We need, apart from funding, we need education, we need specialization, and of course, that is why some conferences like this one, which are followed by many people. Let me tell you here that in the first part, I omitted to tell you there are 80 million euros launched for the first time. There will be agricultural consultants. You know, the European Union complained about it. We didn't have these consultants because there were so many rivalries about who would do what, who would be the trainer of the trainers. And then at the end of the day, we didn't deal with that anyway. Programs launched now, like the ones coming from the RRF, because let me tell you here that the RRF ones are different to the Rural Development Program because RDP gives some benefits to the second pillar. These are not the direct subsidies. There are also some measures that is a small leverage. Now the RRF, with its systems and through smart farming, the leverage of funds, is a different story. We must all understand that smart farming is the future. Circular economy is also the future. Many times, you know, I feel very sad when I listen to the following questions. Why isn't there any subsidy for different topics? Give us more money. Why? Because we want to develop investment opportunities and we are asked about indemnities or different rights and many weird things. It's high time, in my view, we overcame all these barriers. It's high time for farmers, it's high time that farmers went to another level so that they can benefit from these resources. If these resources are allocated again only for a small boost of revenue, then our efforts would go in vain. This is the target of Mr. Livanos, the minister. This is our target. This is a target of Mr. Stylianos and Kedimoglu. These resources should be leveraged. That is, this is not just one part of funding. It's something it's something novel. We need to support local economies. Quite important is our partnership with banks because they are an important player. It seemed to be quite complicated at the beginning, but the idea is simple behind it. For instance, how should I put it? Let me put it in plain words, as if I addressed farmers. If you lend a farmer, what is the percentage risk? Out of 100 euros, 20 said that these 20 euros will be lost. Okay, we can counterbalance the 20 euros. What about the remaining 80 euros? This is not the program, but the main idea behind it is this one. For the first time, and let me congratulate at this point Mr. Dimitrakopoulos, because with the investment bank, with the European Bank, we can finance the improvement of the assets of a company, that is, help them in every possible way, not just help them just to provide them with some vacancies or labor posts, but to truly develop. I think that this is the most important message to convey. Our new policy that I am invited to implement will be something new. I am not putting the blame on subsidies. No, the first pillar remains intact, linked, etc., as we have announced. But the future is not there. The future, on the contrary, lies within new programs where there will be a multiplier when it comes to resources multiplied with private funds. either 2.0, Water 2.0 matched that this effort pretty well. For the first time, there was the Chavrias Dam from the Ministry of Infrastructure, but when it comes to farming, for the first time, we have 1.6 billion euros as a construction expenses, 4.2 final cost for maintenance, heavy or medium, and with different payments available. In other words, resources that we could never have imagined. I also dealt with resources in the period 2004-2009. Thank you very much, Mr. Pagiannidis. Now, Mr. Katanaros, too many points raised by Mr. Pagiannidis and Mr. Dimitrakopoulos before. The environment as well was included to that, as Mr. Karidis alluded to. Please, your comment, because you are at the first line of the real economy, where needs meet resources. Everything goes through the banking system. Let me ask you two things. Obviously, there is the will, there is a way, but are there opportunities for backup? Since this is a buzz phrase, rather, in our daily routine in English, is there a true reality for bankable products? And to what extent can we find farmers or businesses that can really implement such programs rapidly, of course, because time is quite limited? What are the thoughts of Piraeus Bank? Please give us some ideas about the future when it comes to climate change. What can we see? What can we see when it comes to bank products?
Now, I would like to highlight the most crucial part, that is the RRF. This is a unique opportunity, not only for this country, but also for the business world, the farming world, so that our economy may adopt a greener paradigm. As was said, the budget for the transformation of agriculture amounts to 520 million euro, including innovation-related investments, the support of agricultural products, the restructuring of cultures, agritourism, genetic improvement of livestock, many important actions mentioned when it comes to irrigation systems. And here the role of farmers and all the stakeholders, especially the banks and Piraeus Bank, is very important. We need to guide, to consult, to advise, and to support farmers when it comes to design, planning, and implementation of their business plans. Piraeus Bank views climate change as by far an overarching priority in terms of responsible and accountable banking. And it undertakes initiatives and actions with a view to allowing our clients to adopt to make long-term sustainable investments. By way of inclusion, climate change dictates a greener future, and I would dare to say more intelligent, smarter future. This is something we have already designed. We are implementing through our actions, our innovations, our initiatives and products. Thank you so much. Mr. Dimitrakopoulos, I would like to ask you a question already raised by the public. In Greece, there's quite an interest for startup companies, especially in the Agri-food sector. If I'm not wrong, features among the first sectors. So given that we are talking about the transition to a more digital model, digital paradigm, I'm wondering whether the European Investment Fund has any tools to support these new companies. And so very concisely, very briefly, what are these financial instruments that are addressed to startups and that will prevail over the subsidies that businessmen have been used to being granted to date? Now, first and foremost, I would like to say that there's not only the Rural Development Guarantee Fund, but also other products. Of course, the Piraeus Bank also has a plethora of products. But as far as the European Investment Bank, for example, there is an agreement with all systemic banks which may help through global loans or EGF, the European Guarantee Fund, agricultural undertakings. That is to say that there are sources of financing for all SMEs, especially when it comes to seeds or startups, which have not had adequate access to credits because of inadequate assets that may be used as collateral, for example. Here lies the importance of our innovative tool, which offers a guarantee both to banks and to private investors. And so the fund guarantees for 80%. And so in case the loan turns into a non-performing loan, the bank will get part of the capital. So this is a guarantee granted to the bank, but also to the end user, who may be eligible to lower collaterals or to lower interest rates. Now, the issue is whether, if there is an innovative idea, undertakings may also make use of the equity fund. That is a far-reaching equity fund that has 5 single fund managers for smaller scale projects, small scale projects. So if the entrepreneurs are prepared to give in a part of the undertaking, then of course solutions are out there available for them. Mr. Karidis, I already asked you the question, what would be the criteria for you to select undertakings in order to finance them? And taken for granted that there is a necessary will, are there the necessary resources in society to support, to uphold this transition? I believe that your question is critical, and I will try to refer also to what Ms. Dimitrakopoulos has said, who managed to pass me the ball. Now, I would like that we have mezzanine and quasi-equity tools. Hybrid. This is a hybrid tool between equity fund and loan, and we try to uphold 2 objectives: circular economy and circular transition. So this is a mixed strategy, a mixed scheme designed for startups and SMEs under transition. When it comes to startups, we focus on new technologies which can be applied at a larger scale. And so this is our focus there, by funding them and also by providing consultancy services. When it comes to SMEs, that are the 70% of our strategy, we focus on businesses which are willing to embark upon the path of transition. In other ways, we do not target just who already delivers, but also who want to make a difference. There are dynamic entrepreneurs or undertakings who are not seeking for an investor, but also as a partner who will help them extend their scope abroad and change, transform their modal paradigm and also generation. There are family companies that are the backbone of our economy, which once the new generations take over, are taken over. And so when it comes to criteria, the criteria are the following. First, to have a growth and exportation potential. Secondly, for the management team of the undertakings to have a vision compliant with a circular economy and the generation of additional value, of positive impact. And of course, here we do not mean that undertakings will intend to save the planet, but of course, they need to be sustainable. So the positive impact concept is important because it paves the way for the penetration of foreign markets and also builds a stable relationship with consumers. Third criterion, so we want the value chains to be circular enablers. This is stems from the fact that unless we have to do with multinationals, we may have circular value chains that is local, more resilient, less vulnerable or fragile chains. The Greco Island initiative on the islands, for example, is a typical example. There is Halki and Astipalea, which are eloquent examples, and all that is being connected with smart specialization strategy. Mrs. Kunduri, for example, is cooperating with us with a view to linking the advantages of each and every region to the specific strategy. For example, Central Greece has the highest production, export, and waste of metals, and there's a company under examination currently, as soon as our fundraising is finalized, which receives the toxic metal waste and turns it into a filter which ends in enhancing biodiversity because it increases the phosphorus content of waters. So we may see that a raw material which is deleterious for the environment may be transformed into something which has positive income with a margin of profitability. I suppose that all that is eloquent of what can be done. And of course, our ambition is to expand to southern Eastern Mediterranean. So this is a blueprint, and I believe that Greece at large is trying to take on this responsibility, this role, a leading role in the greater area. Thank you. I would like to thank all of you, Mr. Papagiannidis, Mr. Gaitanaros, Mr. Dimitrakopoulos, Mr. Karidis, for having provided rich insights with your food for thought. As a journalist, I have much to do tonight and tomorrow morning because you have touched upon very delicate issues. Some news also have stemmed from this discussion, and certainly this was a springboard for food for thought for all. Mr. Papagiannidis, just please know that everyone, all interlocutors, but also the participants would like to know more about the new programs and the opportunity, the financing opportunities. So in that sense, this panel has been stamped with success. I would like to thank Mrs. Lazaridou, Professor Papadakis, and all the distinguished guests, and of course the group of New Agriculture, New Generation, for the opportunity given to us to elaborate on all that. I would like to conclude with a phrase, Mr. Karidis, from Aeschylus. A small seed may give rise to a big tree. So let us hope that we have sown the seeds for big, sustainable trees in the future in our country. Having said that, I give the floor back to Efi Lazaridou and to Mr. Papadakis. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Καλησπέρα σας.
Μαζί.
Μαζί, καλησπέρα λοιπόν. Φτάσαμε λοιπόν...
Good afternoon again. This is the end of a quite interesting conference. As we have seen, an initiative, a very topical, crucial initiative that was attended by an extended audience, farmers and others. I would like to congratulate New Agriculture, New Generation. Congratulations to all those who have contributed to the excellent organization of a 3-day online conference, despite the difficulties of COVID. Thanks to the new technologies, we have the opportunity to exchange views and to disseminate information. In order to pave the way for the new economy which is not around the corner, it is already here. Importantly, we have noticed a high interest by the public. We had more than 2,000 views on our YouTube channel, approximately 500 participations in the English channel, which certainly highlights the international dimension of this event. Now, all 3 days were full of precious insight, and that was there was an escalation we were all expecting. I don't know whether, Yorgos, you would like to sum up what we have listened to on these 3 days. Well, I will try to be concise. Certainly, we have shown that the agenda defined jointly by all of us, the people of New Agriculture, New Generation, the members of the scientific committee, were to the point. And that was shown by the high interest, the high degree of interest. Certainly, climate-related policies, not only at the international level, but especially at the national level, which is at the heart of our concerns, and what is more, agriculture. For in Greece, at least, not much is known when it comes to the nexus agriculture and climate. So the first session with our politicians and other analysts have certainly elaborated on the impact of climate change and the measures already adopted and those which are to be adopted, as we have we heard by the representatives of the ministry. At the same time, international experts have exchanged their international experience. It's important to highlight that those who have addressed Green Deal and from farm to fork have pointed out that this is the first time that we see a strategy embracing agricultural produce with climate, efficient use of resources in a holistic whole, without segregations, but rather creating an umbrella which will be the glue for all of us to come up with bioclimatic practices, efficient practices when it comes to food production. Certainly, this is not only about food production, but the food chain from the farm to the fork. Interventions are more than necessary. And of course, the farmers are concerned with their crops. What are the new technologies, as we said today? What are the measures that will be imposed? We had a successful case study of the adoption of new technologies. We have seen to what an extent the adoption of new technologies helped that farmer improve the quality of his crops, overcoming difficulties and increasing his profits. Now, all that has to scale up. Now, this is the next step. We need to double our efforts to have that scaled up. We have also discussed the financing opportunities, the various new tools, new programs, the new practices which generate new sources of income. And certainly the conference has managed to bridge the gap of information in order to give food for thought to all the stakeholders who will have to find out more and adopt these new practices in all the parts of the procedure, the process. Technology seems to render the use of these tools more accessible. We have seen that as far as precision agriculture, for example, the solutions are more affordable. They generate a water saving by 20%. I'm thinking of smart irrigation, for example, which is important to both quality and quantity. We need to have a closer look at that. And certainly, George, the financing is important. The representative of EIF talked about the Rural Development Guarantee Fund. And here we have the loan guarantee, but also the possibility to get an autonomous loan for working capital. Mr. Karidis from Sports Platform talked about the financing possibilities through Impact Hub in circular economy and circular transition. And what struck me as a common denominator to all our speakers was the need to change mindset. And this probably is feasible thanks to the generation change, the legacy we are to leave to the new generation, also in entrepreneurship. Certainly. This was pointed out by the General Secretary of the Ministry, Mr. Papagiannidis. Certainly, we know very well that for politicians, subsidies may be a hot potato, but I cannot but agree with the way he put it. As you said, Effie, this mindset, this culture needs to change. Farmers should not just expect subsidies to make ends meet. What matters today is that it is imperative for the modern, sustainable agriculture to be the recipient of new investments. And so investments are feasible through these new channels, through the resources that will be earmarked by the ministry. I'm thinking of the European Union funds and other funds. And these funds need to be used to the utmost. We should not limit ourselves and our efforts to subsidies. We need to double our efforts to meet the objectives. And this is a call for the young. The new calls, or also that the General Secretary pointed out, was very important. I believe it's high time we wrapped up. Giving the promise that this was just the beginning. Yes, of course, and also hoping that next time we will discuss, there will be light at the end of the tunnel. There are solutions out there. Hopefully next time we will see a higher level or a higher degree of implementation here in Greece as well. Once again, I would like to thank all of our supporters, the Stavros, Niarchos Foundation, Piraeus Bank, the ministry, the competent ministry under the aegis of which our conference was organized, the Serafio Center, which hosted us the first 2 days, and the scientific committee, starting with the president, Professor Papadakis, here with me, at the Agricultural University of Athens, Mr. Dedousis from Piraeus Bank, Prodromos Zanis, professor at Thessaloniki and lead author at the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, Mr. Magnatis from the European Commission, Julian Morin from Rutgers Center for Agri-food Ecosystems, Mr. Balabanis at the European Commission, Mrs. Kalliopi Pannoussou at Imperial College, Mr. Fenakis from Columbia University. And certainly we would like to thank from the bottom of our hearts our friends from New Jersey, precious consultants, advisors, and supporters. I would like to thank all speakers, all facilitators of our sessions. They did a great job. Certainly, you will see many interesting articles, together with the minutes of the conference, of course, which will be accessible through our library. All sessions of all 3 days are accessible through our channel and continue to be so for those who wish to attend them. So from us at New Agriculture and New Generation, I personally would like to thank you all. We look forward to receiving your feedback and enjoy your evening. Thank you. Thank you again to all. Stay safe. Enjoy.